In the name of comfort and convenience, a lot of what we do in our everyday life harms nature. Be it transport, fashion, or food. Our choices are leading us to be more and more out of sync with our ecosystem and our planet. How can we course correct? On today's show, let's take a look at a few ideas to do just that. Hello and welcome to Eco India. I'm Sanuta Raghu. India's polluted rivers have made headlines around the world. The scene of froth overpowering the surface of these rivers is jarring even to people accustomed to the sight. Detergents are one of the things that causes this foam. They end up in rivers as part of untreated or poorly treated wastewater. What can be done to tackle this? Our team visited entrepreneurs in Bengaluru who may have an answer.
The Yamuna River in Delhi, frothing like a giant bubble bath. Images from November last year that made international news. Untreated wastewater from dye factories and industry turned it into a chemical cocktail. The 1,300-kilometer-long river is considered one of the dirtiest in the world. Many waterways in India are polluted with high levels of chemical toxins.
The chemicals in our water bodies vary from our detergents that we are using to wash our clothes, dishes, our cleaning agents in toilets, kitchens, as well as a lot of medical waste that we flush down our toilets or we consume and discharge. So laundry detergents certainly have a large role to play, not just from domestic users, but from industrial users as well.
Particularly dangerous are fat-dissolving detergents and phosphates. They act as water softeners and keep removed dirt from resettling on clothes. If sewage systems are inadequate, the substances aren't filtered and usually end up in rivers, with dramatic consequences.
The phosphates that continue to stay in the water then give rise to the growth of algae and other microorganisms, which then cause eutrophication of lakes. What really happens is that there is not much oxygen available in the lake. Plants like typha take over, hyacinth takes over, and then there's not a whole lot of biodiversity.
Belandur Lake in Bengaluru is also polluted. The foam on its surface has burst into flames multiple times, like here in 2017. IT specialist Ashok Panda has lived nearby for more than 20 years. Out of a sense of personal responsibility, he stopped buying supermarket cleaning products. Instead, he makes his own soaps with no chemical additives out of water, lemon juice and shikakai, a powder made from acacia pods.
When you use any chemical product, it is you are touching in your screen for everything, like cleaning the utensil, cleaning your clothes. You are using by hand, so you are using the chemical always. When you use this product, you spray it, goes to your nose or anything, nothing you have to worry about it. So it is completely harmless because it is made of natural things.
As a member of a local environmental group, Ashok Panda has taught hundreds of people how to make natural cleaning products. But it is just a drop in the ocean, he says. After the US and China, India is the world's third largest market for detergents. Nearly $4 billion worth was sold here in 2019, the equivalent of more than 300 billion rupees. Although a few manufacturers claim to offer phosphate-free versions, a lack of binding legislation leaves loopholes. Manas Nanda wants to combat this. It's a small company, Bubble Nut Wash, produces natural detergents from soap nuts in Bengaluru. Its environmentally conscious customers come mainly from big cities. The company believes its consumer base will grow.
So soap nuts have been traditionally used in Indian culture for a long time. Some of our first-time consumers vaguely remembered about how their grandmothers used soap nuts for washing their delicate silk sari, for example.
The company buys the soap nuts from local farming communities, often in remote areas. This new market gives them the chance to improve their income. Chinnamma has been one of Bubble Nut Wash's regular suppliers for 4 years. She earns up to 6,000 rupees, the equivalent of about 70 euros per year, with soap nuts from just one tree.
It grows well. We want to plant more of this type as well. This tree only brings profit. There are hardly any losses.
It will still take time for sustainable detergent manufacturers like Bubble Nut Wash to gain any significant market share, especially as their products are more expensive than standard detergents. But Manas Nanda is optimistic.
At the moment, green detergents form a very small segment of the entire detergent market in India, with bulk of the demand coming from larger cities. However, the awareness around green detergents has increased significantly over the last 3 to 4 years, which is why the market has grown considerably over the past.
This by itself won't be enough to end water pollution. India does have sewage treatment plants, STPs, like in this residential area in Bangalore. But the problem here is a different one.
Oftentimes, the main challenge with STPs is maintenance, the staff that maintains them over a period of time. So, you need skilled manpower and replacement of resources, parts as required to make sure that STPs continue to run well. So, I would say the main challenge with STPs is maintenance.
After foam engulfed the Yamuna last year, the Delhi Pollution Control Committee banned the sale of certain soaps and detergents. But that alone will not fight the froth, as long as sewage systems remain inadequate.
Now, the practice of cleaning and maintaining sewers is particularly risky and complex in India. Sanitation workers have to climb down without protective equipment, even though manual scavenging has been illegal since 2013. A Kerala-based company has developed a working prototype of India's first manhole cleaning robot. Can this help mitigate the dangers faced by sanitation workers in the country? Let's find out.
They dive down using their hands to unclog sewers or drains of silt. Sometimes the silt includes human feces, and the job to unclog such a sewer is known as manual scavenging. It arose from a combination of an overwhelmed sewage system, a lack of the right machinery, and the low cost of labor. This robot could help put an end to the practice. Named after an Indian rat species, the mechanic Bandicoot is clearing out a clogged sewage pipe in Mysore city today.
That's the location. A little more. Hold it.
A metal hand clears plastic, sanitary pads, and greasy mounds of silt that have clogged up this drain. But this high-tech approach is very new, especially to K. Gopi, who is assisting the robotic operation today, and previously worked as a manual scavenger for nearly 2 decades.
We would go down 15 meters in phases. There would be 10 of us, and we'd go down one by one and remove the accumulated silt. We were given one bucket, a rope, and a pan. We would remove the sewage with the pan, fill the bucket, and others up at street level would pull the bucket up.
India banned manual scavenging in 1993, but the country's most recent survey shows that 58,000 people still do this work. Independent analysts say the number is more than 10 times higher. A vast majority belong to lower castes or come from disadvantaged backgrounds.
People would stigmatize us because we were working in underground sewers. They called us bathroom workers.
Apart from the stigma, reports suggest the job also comes with extreme health hazards. These stories inspired the creation of the Bandicoot, which touts itself as India's first sewage cleaning robot.
People are sending missiles and to Mars and all other planets, but still in our Earth, people are entering into this manholes to clean.
Arun George and 6 of his friends from engineering college co-founded their startup in 2015, applying their mutual love for robotics to a social cause.
We interacted with the manual scavengers also. and we understood that what are the problems they face when they are entering into the manholes, and what are the current limitation of the current technology that they are using. What are their limitations? And understood, and we designed this Bandicoot first version. We are on a mission to completely eliminate this manhole scavenging and introducing this technology.
To that end, they've trained dozens of scavengers to use the robot, providing access to a new and better job. Since 2017, George's company has sold 100 Bandicoot robots to waste management operators across India. Each costs a steep 4 million rupees or nearly 50,000 euros. As long as manual scavenging still exists, this is an innovation that can help get men out of manholes to ensure that sanitation workers have access to dignified job opportunities and stay safely above ground.
A toilet is something many of us may not give second thought to, beyond its intended purpose every day. Yet, it's important to know that today's toilets use about 7 liters of water per flush, which is far too much considering the vast number of people around the world who don't have access to safe water or basic sanitation facilities. Our reporter tried to find sustainable alternatives to our water-guzzling toilets.
The flush toilet was a medical milestone that saved millions of lives. At long last, it helped stop the spread of infectious diseases like polio and cholera. But just one flush consumes 6 litres of clean, drinkable water. Every day, the average toilet guzzles over 140 litres of water, nearly 6 times the daily water consumption in Africa. And the flush toilet hasn't changed much over time.
So, is there a less wasteful way to do away with our waste?
We have a suggestion: vacuum toilets.
If you get on an airplane or maybe on some trains, you'll encounter a vacuum toilet, and that's a toilet that goes.
Chelsea Wold is the author of a new book called Pipe Dreams: The Urgent Global Quest to Transform the Toilet.
And sucks the waste out instead of flushing it down with water.
This seems an intuitive solution.
Put those airplane toilets in our homes and what a delight. Problem solved, right? Not quite. Because even after it vanishes from sight, human excrement doesn't just disappear.
This is what's considered the gold standard sanitation, which is a flush toilet attached to a sewer, attached to a treatment plant. The sewers need a certain amount of water to flow through them to work. So if there's not as much water flowing through the system, the sewers don't flow as quickly as they were designed to flow. The sewage starts to stagnate. There's more corrosion potentially.
A quick side note. This also makes them vulnerable to the effects of climate change, specifically to droughts, because
you can't have a sewer without water.
And to floods, because
they produce effluent, a cleaner water discharge, and that tends to be discharged into a local water body, and that makes them vulnerable to sea level rise and flooding.
So, if we can't use much less water, what about recycling it?
This is Aaron Tartakovsky of Epic Cleantech, which focuses on recycling water.
All we do is put a little 3-way valve, which redirects the water into our system. Step 1, remove the solids. Step 2, treat the water. Step 3, send the water back up into the building. For things like showering and cooking, you're still going to have a connection to the city for potable water, but you're going to use, anywhere from 50 to 90% less.
The contents of our toilets still end up here in large sewage treatment plants, and it's here that their essential nutrients are lost.
People have long known that these are useful substances, and we've forgotten about it.
Urine has been used for
cleaning,
irrigation,
skin softening,
tanning leather,
and I kid you not,
even for laundry,
and as a toothpaste. When aged urine breaks down, it releases ammonia, which is a cleaning agent. Human excrement is also rich in nitrogen and phosphorus.
We don't believe that there is any waste in wastewater. So we can actually take everything in there and repurpose it.
But our sewers make recycling very difficult because in them, everything is mixed together.
You can think about recycling, how when you recycle, you separate all of the items that you want to recycle, the plastic from the paper. It's sort of the same principle. Once you mix everything together, it becomes much less efficient to get everything separated back out again.
So what about toilets without sewers?
Nearly half of the world's population lacks a sewer system. In India, Indonesia, and sub-Saharan Africa, septic tanks and pit latrines are still very common.
Put a treatment plant that is expensive and water-intensive in water-starved countries with booming populations, and you have a big pile of problems. The good news is that scientists and engineers have found solutions. Tartakovsky's company recycles water and creates soil for city buildings. Then there are toilets that generate electricity by burning excrement. Others turn the offending matter into clean water.
Here's a clip of Bill Gates drinking water generated by a toilet he sponsored.
I'm pretty confident that this is the bottled water.
Well, that was rigged. It was all poop water.
The bad news is that people in low-income countries can't afford them yet. And men in high-income countries don't want them.
We just have to get people sort of to help them get over that yuck factor. You know, we understand that a lot of people are uncomfortable with this topic.
I think that one of the flaws of our current system is that we have one gold standard. But what we actually need is lots of different things, because the world isn't really uniform. Some places do have a substantial amount of water. Some places have very little water. Some places need animal feed. Some places need nutrients for agriculture.
There's no one-size-fits-all solution. We can have decentralized solutions like us and centralized folks like the water utilities working together to create a stronger, more resilient overall system.
And so we need toilets that can serve all of those different needs so that communities around the world can choose systems that are the best for them.
But we also have to talk more openly about toilets, instead of scrubbing the topic out of sight.
Now, air pollution is one of the biggest environmental problems today. In many large cities in particular, traffic and industrial fumes are making life unlivable. Although technological advances are attempting to minimize these emissions, air pollution has serious, even deadly health consequences for us humans, as one case in London shows.
If only the air quality were better in London, Rosamund Kissy-Deborah's daughter might still be alive today. Ella was almost 7 when she suddenly became very ill.
My late daughter is Ella Roberta, and she had one of the worst cases of asthma ever recorded in this country. So it started in October, you know, signs of a cold, a cough that sounded like whooping cough, and her first admission or her first coma or seizure was in December. It was linked to air pollution, and through my research I found out that air pollution, it affects millions worldwide.
Until she fell ill, Ella was a completely healthy child and very sporty. She loved swimming and football and also played several instruments. The asthma changed everything.
My life was rushing to work and then always having my phone near me in case her school rang to say her lungs had collapsed.
Ella suffered for 2 years before dying of an asthma attack. Her mother became an activist. With the help of doctors and lawyers, she was able to prove that her daughter's asthma was particularly bad on days when the air pollution was extremely high.
I wanted it officially recognised. I thought for all she suffered, she deserved that. 28 months of her suffocating in her mucus, basically. She deserved to have that moment. I don't want other children in this country to go through what my late daughter went through.
London has a problem. Most of the city exceeds the World Health Organization's air pollution limits. Many of the famous black cabs run on diesel. which is particularly bad for air quality. Hundreds of Londoners end up in the emergency room each year because of toxic air. St Mary's School is on one of the worst polluted roads in southern London. Parents have decided to take matters into their own hands. Ella's death was one of the driving factors.
It just sort of confirmed our fears. You know, we knew, everybody knows, everybody knows it's bad. And everybody knows it's bad for children. They're growing up, the lungs needs to develop, I remember taking my son to school one day and got into the playground. And the noise from the street was just deafening, these cars going by, 100,000 cars every day.
The parents crowdfunded almost £100,000 to buy air purifiers for the classrooms, as well as 12,000 plants for the schoolyard to act as natural air filters. Before, the children weren't allowed to play outside for more than 15 minutes.
I think it's a good thing because it might actually stop the air pollution coming into the school. They smell nice and that they give us air. Because our school is right next to a really busy road, so it helps us a lot.
But Rosamund Kizzy-Deborah thinks that more is needed.
Laws are what really matter, and children's rights definitely matter, and it is their right to breathe clean air, and all government should make that. I don't care how hard it is, by the way. I really don't care how hard it is. They can achieve that.
Rosamund Kizzy-Deborah knows that air pollution can be deadly. She will continue to fight in the name of her daughter so long as there are other children whose lives are at risk because of poor air quality.
Particulate matter is one of the main causes of air pollution in cities. It's present in vehicle exhaust and generated by brake and tire wear. It's a problem that so far hasn't been solved by e-cars. But engineers in Dresden, Germany have found a way to tackle it.
Stop-and-go morning traffic in the eastern German city of Dresden. Every braking manoeuvre wears away a vehicle's brake pads and disc. That produces harmful emissions of particulate matter. The brakes of cars, buses and trucks generate a third of all particulate matter pollution in cities. It's a worldwide problem that's remained unsolved, but now 2 German engineers have a remedy. They use a special laser coating process to make the brake discs extremely hard. That helps reduce wear and tear, and, as a result, the amount of particulate matter emissions.
Our technology can prevent 2/3 of the particulate matter pollution that's caused by the brake disc before it even happens. That's a huge advantage for inner cities.
The inventor's technique solves another problem. Brake discs are made of grey iron and rust unless they're consistently polished by brake pads. The brakes in electric vehicles are prone to erosion because they operate electrically rather than mechanically. The engine provides up to 95% of their brake power.
That means I've only got 5% of braking application to rub the discs clean. In a normal car, which doesn't have that kind of electric braking, I use the brakes enough to keep them clean. That's no longer the case in an electric car.
The difference is clear. The abrasion-proof coating on the Dresden brake discs consists of an aluminium alloy which prevents rust. It's hardly surprising that a string of big-name automakers are lining up to buy. Automotive suppliers also want to get a hold of the technology. The Fritz Winter Iron Foundry makes 20 million brake discs a year and supplies major manufacturers. By 2025, companies will have to comply with the new European emission standards on particulate matter pollution. And because the new discs are more resilient, they can also be made thinner and several kilos lighter. That in turn lowers consumption.
It's about squeezing every possible gram of weight out of things, where you can then improve handling, for instance, and also lower CO2 emissions.
Official approval and production development of the Dresden brake discs will take time. But if all goes to plan, millions of these new discs should hit the road within 3 years to help ensure cleaner air on streets worldwide.
Working in sync with nature is the need of the hour. There are many among us world over who are already on this path. It falls upon each one of us to make the choice to do so too, so that we can pass on a healthy and sustainable planet to our future generations. I'll leave you with that and see you again next week. From all of us in India and Germany, goodbye and thanks for watching.